will know why. So we are live on YouTube. Welcome, welcome. If you are watching the replay, then welcome to you too. So I'm very excited about today's conversation. Anybody that knows me knows that Job is my favorite book of the Bible. So I'm going to do a little recap, let you guys know what's going on. Again, for anybody that is new, just tuning in, I'm going live both on TikTok and on YouTube. So if you see me looking in different places, then that's why. Make sure that y'all like this video. Make sure that if you're not following or subscribed to me, then that you do that. And then just so you understand what's going on, if this is your first time here, then this is the continuation of a series that I've been doing this week. And it is helping the one who hurt you. So it's a live Bible study series. And the question is, if God told you or called you to help the one who hurt you or bless the one who betrayed you, could you do it? And I know that that's a heavy question. We've been studying different people in the Bible to try and figure out what is the method, what is the secret to be able to do that, because that is such a divine thing to be able to do, is to reach out and give a blessing to someone who you feel has hurt, betrayed, taken things from you. It's a hard thing to do. So Monday, we looked at Joseph and his brothers. Tuesday, we looked at, which was yesterday, we looked at David and Saul. And then today, we are looking at Job, which is one of my favorites in the Bible. So let's get right into it. So the theme for today, on top of our overarching theme of the week, is loving the ones who misjudged you. So if you're new to the Bible study, just know that every time we do one of these, I break down what the story was, and then we figure out the messaging in between the story. So that if you're a new Christian, if you've never heard of these stories before, we're going to break it down. You don't have to come with prior knowledge. All you have to do is come with an open heart, and we get down to it. All right. So again, if you're just joining in, make sure that you like this video, make sure that you follow or subscribe, and let's get into the study. Okay. All right. So let's look at the character Job. So Job, I love him because he is quintessentially a good man. Like, he is described as being blameless. He's God-fearing. He's obedient. He's integral. He's just. He's straightforward. He's a good man. And then one thing to include, which is introduced at the beginning of the book, is that he routinely covers his children in prayer. Okay. So with that action, we see that his character is not just performative. It is rooted in who he is. This is something that he routinely does for his family. Okay. Keep that in mind. But nevertheless, his righteousness does not exempt him from his suffering. And we're going to see that throughout the duration of this book. So the story starts with that description, but then it goes into the fact that the angels all come before the Lord and Satan. The angels and Satan. They come before the Lord, and, they're checking in and whatnot. And then God looks to Satan and says, like, what have you been up to? Where have you been? Satan is like, I've been roaming the earth looking for someone that I can essentially tempt or mess with. And then God is like, have you tried my servant Job? Like, have you seen him? And it's interesting. I want to highlight that part because not only does it happen more than once throughout the story, but I've brought this up in past Bible study sessions that a lot of times we think that when we are facing controversy, when trouble comes to our door, we assume that it is the enemy working absent of God. This is yet another example where God signs off on the enemy tempting or torturing or aiding in our suffering. And I think that's really just very, very important to understand, that not all of our suffering is like where God just where God was just missing and these things happened. And sometimes the suffering is with purpose. And that is exactly the case in this story. But moving on. So he asked, have you considered my servant Job? Now, again, God initiates this. So I also think that some of the purpose for when we are when we are finding ourselves in suffering is that there is a group of people that we would not be able to impact and resonate with if we did not go through what they went through. So, for example, if I'm in a relationship and my relationship is always perfect, everything goes like it's a fairy tale. We meet in college, we are sweethearts, we get married straight out of college. There's no infidelity, there's no lying, there's no nothing. Everything is perfect. I can talk to women that have dealt with cheating or domestic violence or whatever things. I can talk to them because you can talk to anybody, but what I talk to them about is going to be without substance because I can't relate and I can't resonate to them. However, if you go through a situation where you're in a tumultuous relationship, it's not a cookie cutter thing. It's not this beautiful fairy tale. It doesn't necessarily have a happy ending. I'm able to now resonate with other women that I could not have reached before. And so that is the same with any example that you could give where you deal with some level of suffering. You now have something in common with other people that are also suffering in the same way. And so that also is a possible reason why you may encounter suffering, is that your promise and the purpose and your calling is attached to a group of people who, if you did not go through what you went through, you would not have anything in common with them. You wouldn't be able to minister to them, and you wouldn't be able to transform or impact them in the way that you're destined to. So just keep that in mind as well. So going back to our story, he offers up Job as an option for someone that Satan can look at. And he, God is like, he is this great man. He's better than everybody on the earth. Like, he is obedient and he loves me and he is loyal to everything that I tell him to do, essentially. And then Satan is like, literally, does Job fear God for nothing? Have you not put a hedge around him and his household and everything he has? So basically, Satan is like, of course, he's all these things. You've given him everything. He is wealthy. He has all these possessions. He has this family that he loves. He has all the desires of his heart. Of course, he's loyal to you. Of course, he doesn't say anything bad about you. But would he still do that if you took all those things away from him? I bet that if you took everything back that you've given him, that he wouldn't be so loyal to you. So it brings up the question, do we, and this is a question I'm asking you, do you love God for what he does for you, or do you love God for who he is? And that is essentially what Satan is bringing up, is like, he only loves you because you do everything for him. You've given him everything that he could ever want. And so I ask you to think about that as you're, reflecting on your life. What do you is your obedience to God tied to outcomes and his actions towards you? Or is it tied to his character and who he is, regardless of what he provides to you and how he benefits you in the time that you're asking for whatever you're asking for? So God then turns, and his response is that I trust that what he does and how he feels about me is real. So go ahead and take everything from him. But on the man himself, do not lay a finger. So what we see here is that God grants suffering, but with limitation. So again, we see this overarching theme of the fact that God is still in control. Even if you are suffering, that God still has limitations on the suffering that you will endure. It's not like a free for all. He allows the enemy to come in and test you and reveal your true character and your true heart posture towards him. So we have suffering, but there's still limitation. So God is always present, even if he's silent. Now, the test was not to destroy Job. Again, the test was to reveal what his true character was. We don't know what it is if you're never tested. So again, the attack isn't always the enemy winning. Sometimes it's God proving what he already knows about you. So we have to reframe also like why we're going through what we're going through. So as Satan then starts to perform all the things that he said he was going to do, it's day after day. It's like, if you read the scripture, it's like one day this happens, and then there's like this storm, and and all these things happen. So in day after day, Job is losing something back to back. It's endless suffering. It's ongoing and it's consistent. So he loses his cattle, he loses his children, he loses everything except for his wife. His wife is still there. So I think that represents that for some of us, we find ourselves in seasons where it's like, I can't catch a break. I know we've all said this, like, it's always something. It's like in the morning, you wake up late, and then after that, you get into a car accident. And then after that, you find out that somebody died. And then after that, like you have a flat tire. Like it's thing after thing. Then your electric gets turned off. It's like one thing after another. And that's exactly what happens in Job's life at this time, because the enemy is coming. He's coming for him, and he's going to come in all the ways that he can. So we see that his possessions were taken from him, which represents stability, his livelihood, his ability to provide. His servants are taken from him. So he's lacking now community and support. His flock and his herds are taken from him, which is his provision, his purpose. And then his children are taken from him. Remember when I said in the beginning to keep in mind and just notice how he routinely prays for his children? The thing that he wanted the most is taken from him. And anybody that is a parent, I'm a parent. If you're watching this and you're a parent, you can only only think, if you've never lost a child, what it would be like to invest so much in a child, or multiple children at that, and them to all be taken on the same day. After you've already lost your herd, your flock, you've lost all the things at the same time. Like it's incomprehensible, really, to think about that. And so I want to bring up the point that a lot of times we think that the enemy is going to get us in places where we're weak. So we think the remedy for that is willpower, to be more determined, to have stronger willpower, and then I can like weather the storm. Sometimes the enemy does not attack you where you're weak. He attacks you where you care the most. So in Job's situation, that was exactly that. The thing that he had been praying over, that he has been trying to provide for and cover, he took that from him. And even still, Job did not curse God. So somebody listening, they've prayed over their marriage and they still lost it. They've prayed for a child and still had a miscarriage. They've prayed over their finances and still lost their house and their car. We have to understand and kind of get in the mind of Job, because that is essentially what it was. Something that he had prayed over, that he had asked for, that he was invested in covering, still was taken from him, and for no reason at all. There was no justification. It wasn't like an illness or some random accident. Like, it was to test him. And so again, thinking about the mindset of Job at this time, and then how he must have felt like, why? Like, why are my prayers that I've been praying, why have they not been answered? Why am I the one that this is happening to? And I think we've all been in that situation before, where it's like, why me? And so moving on. So the other thing that I think is interesting about this story is that we see where other people are sort of negatively impacted by the test that Job is going through. So the test is for Job, but his children lost their lives as a result of the test. Sometimes the suffering that you're enduring is not about you. It's about somebody else that needs to get something from God. And you're unfortunately just like your suffering is a byproduct in that. Because we can't always see the purpose of what's happening. We're just players in it. So we don't always know why stuff is happening or why we've been implicated into a situation. Sometimes stuff just happens. And I know that doesn't feel good to say, but like, for real, like sometimes things just happen. But even still, like I said, Job does not turn against God. So then we have the same situation comes back around where Satan and the angels, they come to God, they're checking in, and God says the same thing. He's like, Satan, what have you been up to? And he's like, I've been roaming the earth looking for someone to mess with, essentially. And he's like, have you seen my servant Job? You said that if, we did these things to him, that he would turn against me. He's not turned against me. He is one of the best people here roaming the earth, and he is obedient and he is loyal, and he has not cursed my name despite losing all of his possessions. And so Satan says, but now stretch out your hand and strike his flesh and bones, and he will surely curse you to your face. And so he's like, yeah, he lost everything, but what about if you actually cause him physical pain? Like, yeah, he's lost a lot of stuff. He's mourning right now. He's grieving. But like, what if you actually cause him physical pain? I'm sure that he will turn against you. And so God is like, okay, but you have to spare his life. You cannot kill him. You can do whatever you want to him physically, but you cannot kill him. And so again, we see suffering, but with limitation. God may put you through a certain set of trials and tribulations, but he has control over how far it goes. He has not left you. He has not forsaken you. He is still in control. Even if you don't see him and you wonder why me and all these things, he has not left you. He is still there. All right. So as a result of this new agreement that God has made with Satan, Job is afflicted with sores all over his body. And then that's when his wife is now like, what is going on here? Like, we must curse God, because why is he doing this to us? And I think in this part of the story, when I read this before today, when I reread it in preparation for tonight, I was like, what is up with Job's wife? Like, why would you tell him to curse God? Like, why are you being a negative influence? What I had never heard anybody talk about is the fact that Job's wife was suffering too. Everything that had just happened to Job, it also happened to his wife. So she was grieving the loss of their livestock and their herds and their servants and their home. And she was also mourning the loss of her children. And so while her faith may not have been rooted and as deep as Job's, she was grieving too. She was suffering too. She's an example of what I was just talking about when the test was for Job, but she was also suffering. And I don't hear anybody ever talk about that we have to have compassion for other people who are suffering. And it may not be in the same ways that we're suffering, but depending on where they are in their faith journey. And it's not even a matter of like, oh, your relationship with God is not as strong as mine, but everybody's breaking point is different. And the enemy worked on Job in ways that he thought should break him. Based on where you are in your walk with God, your breaking point may be different. You may not be able to withstand certain pressures that other people can easily withstand. That's why all callings are not for everybody, because while some people can withstand a certain level of judgment and controversy and all these things, other people are not there. They may never get there, and they may just not be there at the time when you're there. So you have to give compassion to his wife. I think she was misunderstood because she had also lost everything and she was grieving too, but nobody talks about that. And so I think that somebody watching this right now is Job, who feels like they've been trying to do everything right. They've been trying to work on their faith. They've been trying to be a good steward of all their things. They pray, they go to church, they do all the things, and they're still in a down season. They're still in a waiting room, waiting for things to get better. But then also, some of you watching are Job's wife, where you are tired, you are exhausted, you are frustrated, you have been suffering for no reason. Because again, the suffering that Job's wife has gone through was also for no reason, because again, the test was for him and he hadn't done anything. So some of you are Job's wife, where you feel like everything keeps happening to you. It's over and over again with no relief. And you're trying to figure out, when will it be enough? When will the season end? And ultimately, you just have to stick through it. You have to understand that your suffering comes with limitations. As we see in Job's story so far, his suffering had limitations. There were certain places that the enemy wasn't going to be able to reach him because God had already predestined it that way. And it's the same for you. It was not necessary for Job to die in order for him to reach the promise that God had prepared for him. And it's the same with you. You just have to stick with it. Notice, even through all of this, I have not said that Job turned against God, because nowhere does he turn against God. It does not happen. So Job responds to his wife when she says that, and he says, "Shall we accept good from God and not trouble?" Meaning, nobody asked, should we curse God when he was giving us all the things that we could desire? When we had the house, the family, the servants, the sheep, and all these things, you were not asking, should we curse God? Do not now ask, should we curse God and turn against him now that we're not getting all the things that we want or that we feel like are owed to us? That's what he responds. And so again, I have to ask you all, do you only love God when he's giving you what you want? Or does your love surpass all of that and it's connected to who he is? And so I do see some questions coming in. I'm going to just come back to them towards the end, but I see you. I'm coming. Okay, so Job, now, like I said, he never curses God. You get to a place in the book where he's just asking a lot of questions. And it's not even, I wouldn't say it's angry, but it's out of a lack of understanding. And all of his questions are why? Like, why me? Why is this happening? What did I do? Why was I even born? Can you not just take me? Like, Jesus, God, just take me away. I've suffered so much. I don't know how much more I can withstand. And I wish that none of this had ever happened, essentially. And I think that this is very raw. It's very relatable. I think if you haven't been in a space before where you were brought down to your knees asking God, why? God, just, take me away, then it's probably coming, because I think that is real. That's raw. That's relatable. And there is a difference between questioning God's character and questioning the reason for your suffering. Again, nowhere does Job ever question God's character. He merely questions, why am I in this situation? And there's a distinct difference there. So next we have Eliphaz. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. So Eliphaz is one of Job's friends. Job is already hurting. He's been hurting physically, spiritually, and then enters emotional suffering, because his friend, after seeing him, he's deeply disturbed because they don't even recognize him based on, the physical ailments that are now plaguing him. And he's like, what did you do? This has to be your fault. And so just some background, in this time period, people believe that suffering is attached to sin. So if you see someone who is suffering, that's going through a hard time, in this time period, they believe you must have done something to warrant this. God does not just act in ways that punish you without you having committed some sort of sin to precipitate that. And so he is sort of accusing him of like, what did you do? And for a long time, most of the book is him going back and forth with his friends, asserting that he did not do anything, that he is blameless. He has not, cursed God. He has not gone against God. He has been obedient. And his friends are just continuing to tell him like, no, you had to have done something. Like, what you're saying is not possible. You had to have done something. And in this moment, you realize, in going all the back and forth, that Job has been isolated. And I think if you've never been isolated before, you don't understand how much that exacerbates all the things that he likely was feeling. Where again, you have this physical suffering, now emotional suffering, financial suffering. And then on top of that, the people who are supposed to be his support system and supposed to be in his corner are now questioning his character and saying, well, like, what did you do? You can't be who you're presenting yourself as, or else this wouldn't be happening to you. And so I think a loneliness can come when people misinterpret your pain. They were not talking with negative intention, but they really just didn't know. And they were essentially talking out of turn, though, because of the fact that they didn't know. And they spoke with such conviction that you can only imagine that it made Job question his own identity. Because again, the book opens up with describing Job as being blameless. He is just, he is righteous, he is all of these things. And then you have you have this set of circumstances happen to you that you can't control. And then you have the people closest to you telling you that it's your fault. You have to, at some point, look and say, like, am I not who I think I am? And an attack on someone's identity is probably the deepest attack that you can experience, because it's like it makes you question if you are who you say you are, or if you are who you believe you are, if you are who you present yourself as. But even still, even though his friends are wrong, they're speaking out of turn, they really don't know what they're talking about, Job does not attack him, he does not curse him, and he doesn't even cut him off. He just continues to stay steadfast in who he is and in trying to gain understanding for what's going on, because he doesn't know. He does not return the pain. And again, that's what we're talking about. Like, do you respond in ways that are reciprocal and reciprocate the pain that you've been caused, or can you rise above it? I'm just saying, Job did. He did it. So, all right, hold on. So finally, God speaks, because God has been quiet this whole time. Like, notice the only person that God has spoke to as we've went into this story is Satan and the angels. Like, he has not spoken to Job. And that's kind of what throughout the book, Job is like, God, please just tell me what's going on. Like, talk to me. And he does not say anything until all of these things happen. And then finally, after Job has questioned and cried and searched for understanding, but not walked away from him, finally God talks, but he does not actually say like why all this stuff is happening. Instead, he reframes Job's mindset. So God then starts asking Job a whole bunch of questions, and this goes on for a long time. He asks him all these questions that Job does not he can't answer. And God is like, basically, since you know everything, answer these questions. Like, do you know who put the sun in the sky? Like, he asked those types of questions, like, because you've been here since then and you think you know everything. And so essentially he's asking him this because he's like, who are you to ask me why? You've been so set on trying to understand something that you could never understand. Even if I told you why this is happening to you, you could not possibly conceive, understand, find meaning, or interpret what the answer is. And that's because you will never understand the things that I do, because I do them ahead of you. That's a word for somebody. You will never understand. You keep asking God why, trying to gain understanding from something that you are not qualified to understand. It is above your pay grade. Even if he told you, even if he broke it down, explained step by step, spoke to you for 12 hours about the one thing, you would not understand, because it's not meant for you to understand. You lack the capacity, and it's not a slight, it's the truth. You lack the capacity to understand at the level that God performs his daily workings. You don't know it. You can't get it. You won't grasp it. So he asked him all these questions, and he's like, you wouldn't understand if I told you. And then Job, because of the humble man that he is, which is why I love him so much, he apologizes, he repents, and not because he cursed God. He repents because he says, surely I spoke of things that I did not understand. After everything, he continues to remain humble. He realizes, I spoke out of turn. I should not have been questioning you. I should not have been asking you why. It was not, forgive me, friend, forgive me. And so, again, when we look at, this brings us to the next part. and I just need to go back over it. When we look at Job's friends, their intentions were not evil, okay? Their theology was flawed. They believed in something that was not necessarily true. So God, he rebukes the friends. And he's like, basically, y'all were out of line and you have not spoken the truth about me as my servant Job has. So all along, Job, although he was frustrated, although he was suffering, although he was probably depressed and all these things, he spoke the truth about God. He understood that God could stop this whenever he wants. He understood that God is still good. He never cursed God. His friends were saying stuff that wasn't even true. That like, if for God to have done this, you had to have done something, because God is not punitive. And so when you say that and you don't give the whole story, you frame God as being punitive. And so he rebukes the friends, and then he puts their fate in Job's hands. He says, my servant Job will pray for you, and I will accept his prayer and not deal with you according to your folly. Job prays. He prays for them. And then after Job prayed for his friends, the Lord restored his fortunes and gave him twice as much as he had before. So Job had the option to let God deal with his friends in the way that they probably deserved, or he could pray for them and God would honor his prayer. Job chose forgiveness. But here's the even deeper part. And I'm going to see if y'all caught this. Here's the deeper part. God did not restore Job until after he prayed for his friends. Job did not receive his blessings until after he forgave his friends, until after he saved them. And I think that's the part that a lot of us are missing, because we feel like we can forgive them once we're not hurting anymore. We think we can move on from the pain that they've caused once we're no longer feeling the pain in real life. Job was not restored until after he prayed for them. So for all we know in this story, because it doesn't really specify, Job may, at this point, we know his kids are still dead. He's lost all of his possessions, and he's likely still walking around with sores and whatnot. Like, he's just a hot mess at this point. But even still, even through all of this, and then probably some of the things that they have said to him playing in his head, he still was able to spare them of a negative fate. And so forgiveness is what unlocked his blessing. Grace unlocked his double portion, because not only did he get back everything that he lost, he got it twofold. So we have to see the pattern here. So we see that Joseph from Monday, Joseph did not receive reconciliation until after he forgave. We will see that Jesus forgives before he's even resurrected. Job forgave before the restoration. So it is possible that you are blocking your blessing. You, by not forgiving, you are blocking your restoration. You are blocking all of the things that are ahead of you, and you cannot get to your promise until after you forgive, until after you make a decision to move forward in a way that honors not only you, but that honors God. And again, it's not about the person deserving it, because maybe they deserve every negative thing that you can think of in your head for them. You maybe can think about all these negative outcomes that should happen to them, and you can explore those things, you can do those things. But if you do, understand that it comes at your cost. You are the only one, well, you and the people you're connected to that benefit from your promise. Y'all will be impacted. The person that did whatever they did, they're not impacted by that. They don't care. They don't care about you. So why would they care if you don't get to your purpose and your promise? They don't care. So I do want to go back and answer a question that we had here. So, when has this showed up in your life, and what would be your advice if we are in this season? And so, I think that we've all been in this situation, and I appreciate you for that comment. Thank you so much. So, I think that we've all been in this situation, and I don't claim to know all the answers. I will not be that person to claim to know everything, and I'm not going to be the person to claim that I have addressed every situation exactly as it should be addressed in the name of God. But I will say that my heart posture is in the right it's in the right intention. So when I think about a time where this has showed up in my life, and I think when you asked this question, it was about um feeling like things are happening back to back to back in your life. And I just came out of a season like that where any women that are listening, we know that pregnancy is tough, is very difficult. And I was in a situation where what I had relied on to make money was not making me money anymore. Um, People that I thought should have been in my corner, they did not show up in the way that I expected. I felt betrayed by their actions or their lack of regard for me. I felt like I felt a lot like Job. And I think that's why I love the story so much, because I was in a situation where I was trying so hard and I was doing so much and I was wanting, I expected reciprocity in that regard, to where like, if I pray, if I am a good person, if I treat other people the way that I want to be treated, I expect that I will receive that in return. And that's not how people operate. And so in a time, and like I said, for any women that have ever been pregnant, you realize that pregnancy and the months after the postpartum period, they are probably the most vulnerable time in any woman's life, because your body is not yours. There's hormone fluctuations and like real deal stuff that happens in that time. And it takes, like, I think scientifically it says it takes like 2 years for you to get back to who you were before, get back to your regular hormone levels and all the things. And it's like, I felt like at every turn, things were going wrong, and everything was out of my control. And but I never thought that like God forgot about me or he didn't love me or anything. I did not question God's character. I did not doubt that the things that I knew about him prior to that situation were true. But I did, like Job, I wondered, like, why me? Why, despite me doing everything right, why is this happening? Despite me trying to put up boundaries, despite me trying to be the bigger person, despite me trying to overlook certain actions, like, why is this happening to me? And similar to how I started this conversation, I came to realize eventually, and it wasn't immediate, I came to realize eventually that there is a group of people that I now am able to relate to because we share the same struggle. And maybe that doesn't help like in the moment that it's happening, because it's still like, okay, but like, why was I called to these people? Like, I know y'all are familiar with that. It's like a meme or something, and it's like, for the first of the year, like, God, please don't pick me to be one of your strongest soldiers this year. Like, I'm always one of your strongest soldiers. Like, this year, can I not be? And I felt like that. Like, why me though? Like, can I not resonate with like the rich stay-at-home moms? Like, can that not be my my group to resonate with? Like, why does it have to be the struggle warriors? But you don't get to pick where you're called, but you at some point hopefully will embrace where you're called, and you'll find purpose in where you're called, and then you'll be able to impact the people that you are destined to impact. And so I would say, for anybody that is in a situation where you feel like things are happening outside of your control and they continue to happen, and you're continuing to be beat down and you're struggling to weather the storm, you need to find community. That's the first thing. And for me, I would not have been able to weather the storm that I was in if not for my family, because I'm not somebody who has a lot of friends, who has a lot of girlfriends, who, that you can call on in the same season I'm talking about. Be one person who I felt like was in my community in that way. She she's no longer around. And so, you have to find community where you can. And that is why I created the Waiting Room Collective. It is a space for people who are in the in between season. You're waiting for what God has promised you. You're frustrated with where you are. Maybe things seem really, really bleak. And the waiting room happens for a lot of us. Like, some of us are in a waiting room waiting for a spouse. Some of us are in the waiting room waiting for a new career. Some of us are in the waiting room dealing with health issues. Whatever room you're finding yourself in, there you have to learn how to navigate those in between seasons, because God has something better for you. You just have to stay committed in the room that you're in right now. And so you want to wait well. You want to wait with grace. You want to not turn your back on God. We want to follow Job's example and still look to God. As we're struggling with what's happening, we still look to God. We still look to him for reassurance. We still look to him for peace. We look to him for restoration. And part of that restoration, again, is learning how to not forget what people do to us, but to forgive. And not, again, because they deserve it, but because it's what we deserve. It's what the people that we are intended to impact deserve. They deserve a version of you that is healed, that is as whole as you can be. They deserve a version of you that is not still chained to the past and chained to people that hurt them, that have hurt you. So again, I think it starts with community. I think it starts with a reframing of the mind. And it starts with really just understanding, again, God's character. And when you understand his character, you understand that he will never leave you. He will never forsake you, that everything that he does was with intention. You understand that what the enemy meant for evil, that he means for good. And when you have those things in mind, you're able to weather the storm. You're able to wait well, and you're able to realize that you're not behind, that you are being built. So that concludes today's Bible study. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. Make sure that you like this video. Make sure that you subscribe or follow if you're not already. Turn on post notifications, because we will be going live again tomorrow for another Bible study topic. And we're looking at Jesus tomorrow. We're looking at Jesus. He was one of our examples today, but he is the ultimate example of restoration and forgiveness and all the things. So yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow. And I hope that you have a very, very blessed day and that this was fruitful for you. Bye, guys.